Hello and welcome to another anime lore and theory video. I'm Shangok, your host, and today we are going to take a closer look at how the child of Tuare and Sebas could actually look like, and what powers and abilities and what kind of personality it would have. But before we're going to take a closer look at any of this, let me quickly thank my Patreons for supporting this channel, as well as say thanks to all users of the YouTube thanks function for making one-time donations. And with that said, let's get to the topic at hand. And to start off the speculation, we first need to find a way to make both of them compatible. As I have repeatedly mentioned in my last videos about the demi-humans and about Demiurge's cruel experiments on the Happy Farm, it is normally impossible for a humanoid like the human woman Tuare and a heteromorph like the dragonoid Sebas Tian, the butler of steel, to have offspring together. It's unclear why this is the case, only that it seemed to be a hard barrier, not easily crossed. That's why there are no half-dragon hybrids, no Arsimar or thieflings among the population of the human world, and there are also no people with unpleasant fish-like appearances, like in Game of Thrones, where George R. R. Martin has more or less confirmed the existence of the Deep Ones, or at least hinted at it. And let's be honest, fish people mingling with human women would fit very well into the other depravity in his books. But back to the topic at hand. While it is possible for humans and elves, or humans and dwarves to have offspring, it is currently not possible for Tuare and Sebas. Fortunately, there's always Demiurge and his experiments for such cases, and we do have at least one instance where it worked naturally, at least to our knowledge, where Brighton's Dragonlord, a heteromorph, a dragon, fathered a child with a human woman, and probably with many other beings as well, as the dragon was the Peroncino of his kind, and probably still is. Anyway, either the secret of overcoming these boundaries of love will be revealed through Demiurge's experiments, or it has something to do with the wild magic, the original magic of the world that the Dragonlords can use, such as for example the polymorph spell, which could transform them into humans, like what the dragon woman Terendelev did at the beginning of Pathfinder, just the other way around. And maybe all it takes to help true love is a magical ring, or a wild magical ring, that both have to wear so that their wish for a child can come true. Provided, of course, that the dragon's second tail is more or less compatible with Tuare. And regarding the question of whether or not people from Yggdrasil Online can actually reproduce at all, after all, the game didn't allow for certain parts of the anatomy to be detailed and modeled for fairly obvious reasons, the answer is still yes. We already have confirmed that godkins, the offspring of players, exist, and even Albedo seems capable of reproducing without any further modifications, and from Sheltier, like from her mind, her inner thoughts and dialogue, we also know that she spends her nights with her vampire brides. And she thought about this during the fight against Ain Sulgown. In other words, yes, it's definitely possible and even has happened in the Great Tomb of Nezarec. Probably repeatedly, every night. So now the question arises, what would the child of these two look like when it reaches adulthood and is at full strength, meaning level 100? And I think we should start the question of whether or not this child would age, in the sense of becoming old and frail and ultimately dying of old age, like normal people do. And the answer would be to this, it depends. If Sebas' heteromorphic genes dominate, the child wouldn't age at all. If Tuare's genes dominate, then it would age. And I'd say there's a middle ground here, and the child would age, but much more slowly. And for the name I've come up with Itoria, which stands for combat and fighter, and her design can be seen here. And with that said, let's get to the main point, namely the character and classes. Itoria will be influenced by being the child of Sebas and Tuare, obviously, and she will likely admire Sebas' strength and Tuare's motherly kindness and the bravery of Sebas Tian, and strive to emulate both. And since both, like everyone else in their environment, serves the Supreme Being and Overlord of Nazarick, Ein Soul Gone, Itoria will also likely want to follow their example and fight for Ein Soul Gone. While Tuare might initially have some fears about this, that can be eased by Ein Soul Gone ensuring her that resurrection magic still very much works, and that she won't be underleveled when she starts fighting, Sebas would be thrilled that his daughter would enter the service of his overlord. However, he would also raise the child according to Touchme's example, who created Sebas, and who believed it was important to help people in need, and saw this selfless aid as common sense. Thus, the daughter of these two will likely lean towards the positive side of karma, not lawful stupid like Remedios Custodio, at least hopefully, but more in the range where Shizu Delta or Yuri Alpha are, meaning she will have a karma value of around 150 points, positive of course. And she will be another, albeit a pseudo-Pleiades, able to interact well with humans and other beings without any hidden agenda, or taking every opportunity to put others in awkward situations. Looking at you, Lupus Regina. And Itoria will also be trained for combat by Sebas Tian himself, which will significantly shape her character build. While I've assumed that the children of Albedo and Ainz would each be strongly influenced by one parent, becoming either an undead or a succubus, Itoria will likely be shaped more and more by Sebas, and primarily train in combat as a fighter, meaning unarmed, and using ki for various bonus effects. This means that besides close combat, she will also be able to heal herself and others or be immune to certain effects, and by using ki, she could block certain abilities of her opponents, similar to how the Hijuga clan from Naruto does it by blocking chakra points, or she could for example buff herself. And her unique combination of human and dragonoid heritage will also be considered here, giving her special classes that basically will be only available to her and other mixed people. And with that said, let's go through the classes first. And the first class Itoria will get is Unarmed Fighter. She will be trained by Sebas, and likely also in the earlier stages by Yuri Alpha, the vice commander of the Pleiades battlemates, simply because both share a relatively similar fighting style and have significant overlaps in their classes. This training will also be more overseen by Sebas and not strictly regulated by Ein Soul Gone, but he will of course open up time slots and the time necessary, and also reduce the workload of Sebas and Tuare so that they can take care of their child. As a result, Itoria will then have ultimately 15 levels in Unarmed Fighter, 10 levels in the next stage, the Battle Queen, and 5 in Awakened. Physically awakened individuals have complete control over their body and are not only brutally difficult to wound, but also extremely skilled in dealing damage and in using their bodies. Essentially everything you see in Baki, she can do as well, albeit more powerful. And next we will discuss the various levels of ki. And she starts by learning ki-based abilities similar to magic, like healing through ki. And she likely, at least in the earlier stages, will train at the school where Yuri Alpha works as a teacher, healing minor injuries like scraped knees or the occasional broken arm. At the same time, she trains to use her ki to make her flesh as hard as copper, iron, orichalcum, adamantite, and so on and so forth, in order to continually build resistances and downright immunity to weaker damage. Unlike Sebas Tian, however, Itoria will not stop halfway along the ki development path. Touchme wanted to have a butler primarily focused on close combat, resulting in Sebas Tian's current build, but he himself realized during the rescue of Tuare, Itoria's mother nonetheless, that it would be beneficial to have ki abilities that can also heal negative status effects like illnesses, and therefore Itoria will be encouraged to fully develop all her ki abilities and unlock the rare class of the Spiritually Awakened. and this class is essentially counterpart to the Physically Awakened, giving her key abilities that reduce the damage from magic and from physical attacks, grant immunity to various status effects, and also unlocks health regeneration and healing key abilities. In other words, while she will be trained by Sebas Tian thanks to her defense and her self-healing abilities and her perpetual regeneration abilities, she will be as defensively sturdy as Albedo herself. However, she will have much more mana than Sebas because Itoria, having been raised as a servant of Ein Soul Gorn, and believing that serving Ein Soul Gorn is the highest honor that one can achieve in life, will also unlock the class of Dark Servant, granting her limited access to some of the spells Ein Soul Gorn can cast. This is also a class that did not exist in Yggdrasil Online, and is exclusive to the New World, and to people like her. Although Itoria won't be able to cast 10-tier spells or super-tier magic, she will have access to over 100 of Ein's weaker spells, from Dragon Lightning to Appraise Item and Hellflame, and useful spells like Greater Teleportation, Greater Create Item, and Message, as well as Meta Magic, like Twin or Triple Casting, or Maximize Magic. However, she won't be able to use these spells as freely as Ein's, since she has much less mana compared to the undead Overlord. Instead, her advantage lies in having access to a wide variety of spells, as Augmentation, and being able to easily learn more magic from Ein's. In other words, in addition to all of her close combat abilities, she can use a lot of magic, allowing her to always choose the spell that helps her best in the current situation. Finally, we must also consider the fact that Itoria is a hybrid being, part dragonoid and part human, similar to the half-breed Priscilla from Dark Souls. And because of this, in addition to all of her normal abilities, she will also have 50 levels in the base class Dragonborn, 10 in Draconic Fighter, and 5 in Dragon Saint. This allows her to harness and control the bestial aspects of her body. Her skin can become steel-like, even without any ki, greatly increasing her defense. Her fingers can become claws that can crush and tear through anything, and her stamina and strength can be temporarily boosted to superhuman levels. The Dragon Saint class is also quite similar to the Eclipse class of Ein Soul Gorn, a hidden and rare class that can only be unlocked by a hybrid being of humanoid and heteromorph. It also includes a special form of ki that envelops her body in a mana aura, which greatly reduces any damage taken and enhances her physical strength and ability. And this aura is basically a much more advanced version of Translocate Damage, the spell that allowed Evil Eye to convert the massive damage inflicted by Demiurge during their short battle into a mana reduction. But offensively, while this aura also greatly increases her combat power and her physical damage output, her magic damage will still remain below average. In other words, as long as her mana reserves hold out, she can actually become stronger than Albedo's Sebas Arcucutus, at least for this brief amount of time. But without this mana boost, she is somewhat weaker, as her character build is less focused. Nevertheless, her versatility is a weapon in and of itself, and could turn many battles with other level 100 beings, whether they be enemy players or NPCs, in her favor. And with that said, we will take a closer look at her stats. And let's start with her HP, or hit points. Sebas likely boosted this significantly thanks to his DNA, so her HP stands out at 85 of 100%. However, Tuare's genes would also ensure that she doesn't have quite as many hit points as, for example, Sebas or Albedo, but it will still be quite decent. Moving on to her MP, here Itoria has significantly more than Sebas, but considerably less than Ein Soul Gorn. However, with 40 out of 100%, she is still magically quite gifted, and can maintain her battle aura for a certain amount of time. Her equipment will also likely include mana regeneration or increase her mana reserves, and perhaps by the time she is born, there's already a mana potion in circulation created by Inferior that could offset this weakness. Even so, she can still use various spells and all kinds of utility magic, like the message spell, or use her ki to buff and heal herself. And next we take a look at the first variable stat. Here Itoria's second weakness becomes apparent, because her attack value is lower than that of Shizu Delta, and she is more suited for long drawn-out battles, where it is important to slowly chip away at the enemy's health, while simultaneously withstanding their attacks. However, due to her Dragon Saint class, she can temporarily boost her power and deal devastating damage, even surpassing Cucutus's attack value, since hers would then sit at 105. At the same time, she can further boost her already formidable defense, to the point where she becomes almost invulnerable for this brief window, and can endure more damage than, for example, Albedo, who is known for her defensive capabilities, because her defense would be her highest stat, then sitting at 135, boosted from an already impressive 95. And her agility, which is already high and allows her to dodge various attacks and get close to the enemy, is normally at 90, but can, with this skill again, be boosted to 130. However, her magical strength does not increase, and her spells still deal relatively average to below average damage. This can be mitigated by only using magic, when physical combat alone isn't enough anymore, and having a spell on hand that is highly effective against the particular enemy. And she can also use her key abilities to detect enemies, even in the dark or over long distances, before closing the distance, making her a somewhat passable scouting unit. However, she cannot detect Shizu Delta or golems or other inanimate enemies, although she can roughly sense the echo they generate when moving through a living environment like a forest or a meadow. But in deserts or on rocky areas, such enemies would be undetectable for Itoria. Continuing with her magic resistance, which is already significant at 90, but again it can be boosted for a short period of time, to 130, with her aura, which would pose a great challenge even for Ein Sulgon in a fight, and would force him to basically play for time. And it would probably take someone like Ulbert Elaine Oddle, or maybe Tabula Smaragdina, to deal significant damage while she is in this mode. And finally, her resistance is at 90, which is already high. However, she can use her ki to heal negative status effects like sleep, blindness, silence, berserk, paralysis, death sentence, cancelled on Twitter, and so on and so forth, meaning it's extremely difficult to harm her significantly with any status effects. Unless of course it's something like the goal of all life is death. And lastly, thanks to her ki, her magical abilities learned from Eins, and her unique hybrid classes, Itoria's special ability stat is naturally completely maxed out. I mean, what else could it be, given all of these abilities? And that's about it for today. And I'm quite satisfied with my version of Sebas and Tuare's potential daughter at level 100. But as I said, this is just my opinion and my speculation about how this daughter could turn out. And now it's your turn. What's your opinion on Sebas and Tuare's child? What abilities do you think it should have? And which one it shouldn't have? Let me know it down in the comment section. And while you're typing, I say thank you very much for watching, thanks to all of my Patreons for supporting this channel, and as usual, I say my special thanks to Ada Daddy Ada, ASK, Bad Guy Ye, Bad Burrito 316, Bezer, Ben C, Brandon D, Chrissy, Crowley 0221, Sia, Crystal Prime, Dead Slime, Death is Mercy, Deathless Dragonlord, Demon Xenomorph 1987, Devin Downen, Ding Dong, Dan Pep, Dragonlord Placido Saxophone, Duckwagon, Dunkler Krieger, Dystopia, Dystopia II, Enigmatic Unicorn, Thiralchivan, Guy with That Head, Hector Marino, Hoss, Huster, Jacob G, Jana B, Jason, J. Morris, Chromius, Kyle R, Lee K. Long, Legendarius, Lelouch V. Britannia with a Mustache, Lexus Fox, Lord Nishikian Rai, Lord Touch Me, Loverazer, Merovec, Mr. Shoes, Mr. Tweaker, Michael R, Michael Y, Nope, Oh Hell No, Normal Toad, O'Kill, Overlord General Gasper, Paddy Pantum, Personage, Ruru, Primus 11, Rhinomere, Kune Caracos P, Shergox's Daddy, Shadow Lightning Wolf, Shrine Keeper, Sir Axolotl, Super Tier Magic Batista Bomb, Supreme Cheese, Staris, Ted, Texas Deer, Diorg Warboss, Rock Ed Smasher, T.E. Wang, Vash Hawkeye, Vegito 27, Venture Fanatic, Wilhelm, Zinukai, and Sonagon. Thanks guys. Anyway, have a nice day, and I hope to see you all again soon on my next video.